Tuning in to the online broadcast network, AfterBuzz TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AfterBuzz TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing after-shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows. Interviewing celebrities and showrunners. And bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another after show for Spotlight on AfterBuzz TV. I'm Cathy Kelley. Sitting next to me today, Jeff Hephner from TNT's newest series, Agent X. Thank you so much for coming in.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
So I want to talk to you about your new series. We were also having a really interesting conversation before the show started about Detroit.
Yeah.
You live there now, right?
I do. I live in a little town outside of Detroit. Hopefully someday I'll be in Detroit proper.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a very unique place. I spent 15 years in New York, and then, New York and LA, they kind of have become this weird place, and Detroit is this wholly new endeavor, and it's a neat rising of art and creativity and the rebirth of a city, and it's really kind of neat to be a part of it. But it's definitely worth checking out if you haven't.
What is the decision for you, since obviously New York and LA are kind of the places to be for an actor? Was that a difficult decision to live elsewhere?
No, it's interesting because I've got 3 little kids, and I wanted to raise them in a unique place and have a strong sense of place, and Detroit very much has that. Once you connect to the Detroit community, or Michigan in general, it becomes a very strong sense of place, and I like that aspect of it to raise children in. And then as an actor, there's so much you don't have control over. It's real nice to go, I'm not in town. You know what I mean? And you get a little sense of freedom, and you can get away from stuff and then really want to come back. I mean, if you're here all doing the grind, you're in LA, man.
It can get to you. There's a lot of competition.
Out. Yeah, and then you're just another one. You're just another one coming through the door, and it gets resentful. And so I'm not around. And when you disappear for 4 or 5 months and then you pop back up, they're like, happy to see you. As opposed to like, get out of here. You're driving me crazy. So
overexposed if you live in LA, maybe? Yeah,
and you see the same people. It's it's a very small town, and once you get into it. And it's nice to separate. I was doing something in New York, doing Comic-Con a couple weeks ago. Yeah. And and in our hotel was the Walking Dead cast as well. So they come with their own enormous entourage. It's insane.
Just zombies following them everywhere.
Yeah, it's bizarre. People dressed up, but like massive fan base, right? And so you have to fight through, and you're jumping into cars, you're doing all very fancy things. But then I remember turning to my wife when we were going to the airport the last time, and you kind of fight through that, and you're like, oh, we get to go be normal again. Yeah. You know what I mean? And none of that crap's in my town. Yeah. And it's nice. It's nice to be able to get away.
I grew up in the Midwest, so I know that it's a great place to be raised. Chicago. Yeah.
Love Chicago. See, I did 2 shows in Chicago.
Really?
I did Boss there for 2 seasons, and then a season of Chicago Fire. Yeah. And that was how I got my wife to move to the Midwest.
Really?
Yeah, we spent so much time. We spent 3 years in Chicago. We got, like I said, 3 little kids, and she fell in love with it. And
great people.
And Chicago's the best city in America. I don't care. I love Detroit. It'll be there. But Chicago's a phenomenal place, and you get a real sense of what the Midwest is when you're there. And it's it's an acquired taste, but we liked it.
Yeah, I agree. It's nice to be in a place in your career where you are able to choose where you live, though.
Yeah, I mean, could be completely delusional on my part. Like, I could do that.
I mean, you're still working. You're the lead on a new series, so it can't be that bad of a decision.
I know. Don't tell anybody that I left because they haven't figured it out. They're like, well, he quit. No. Yeah. But yeah, it is. We're in this point where when I've been in LA, I'll get a job in New Mexico. When you're in New York, you go to Atlanta and Vancouver. You just, as long as you, luckily as an actor, because you're still a freelance employee, you're on your own. If I get to an airport and I can make a tape of myself being some kind of moron in an audition, then I can get there.
Acting, I feel like, is one of those jobs where it's really, you have to put in effort that is not necessarily just working on a show. It's making that effort to put yourself on tape for an audition even though you don't have any time, or...
Well, yeah. I mean, it's like every job that, you know, there's a constant to it. You know, I thought after I got my first TV show that I was like, oh, they're going to call me, right? They're going to just like, we want you. You could be with us now. And it doesn't happen. You have to constantly... There's no quit. It's a constant hustle. Thank you.
Yeah.
But I find that's, you know, if you had a car dealership, or if you were cleaning houses and you want to, you know, make a lot of money cleaning houses, you're gonna have to hustle your ass off. I try to term it that way. I was always swinging a hammer in New York doing some kind of construction, and I could work as much as I wanted to work. If I wanted to work 7 days a week, I'd make a lot of money doing that. I paint houses on the side. You know what I mean? It's all hustle. And I think that translates well into the world of an actor, because if you don't hustle, you don't got a shot.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you filmed a lot on location. Is that something that you prefer?
Well, I mean, I do, because that's what I know most, you know, and you kind of check out all these cities, and I could land in Vancouver and be incredibly comfortable and have like 5 drinking buddies still, you know? And same with Chicago and Atlanta and Albuquerque, you know, all these, my kids were born, one in LA, one in New York, and one in Albuquerque.
Okay.
And you know, it's interesting. You kind of bounce around. I like that life, and I like to be able to get away from it, you know, like the circusness of it. But yeah, I mean, I don't think I could like do a soap where you're in one spot every day, 365.
Every single day.
Nah, I'm good. I don't need that.
Agent X, though, filmed in Los Angeles.
Yes. It did. With a crap load of locations, though, which was hilarious, because we're like, oh, we'll be on the Fox lot. This is going to be great. You know, lattes and, you know, massages all day. Now, we were in Santa Clarita up at the ranches, you know, then we're down at Long Beach at some abandoned power plant, you know, and everywhere's like Chechnya and Mexico and, you know, points in between, and it's ridiculous. So.
It's kind of like filming on location, because it takes 5 hours to get anywhere with traffic.
I know. It's kind of crazy. It's like, wow, I could have flown to Detroit by now. And it's just Santa Clarita to Long Beach. You know, it's like, but... You know, one of the great things about shooting in LA is you do have that option. You can, you know, the topography is so wildly different. You have all this stuff, but then also some of the best actors in the world live here full time. And so when your guests are, you know, former TV stars, you know, you're like, oh, well, it's a good thing we're shooting in LA.
I wanted to talk to you about the guests on the show and the cast in general, because it's an incredible cast of James Earl Jones, Sharon Stone. These are people that you were fans of prior to
Isn't that crazy?
Working with them. So is that surreal to you, or did it make that experience that much more meaningful?
Sometimes it is surreal, just because I'm a fan and I try to be as open as possible. So if, you know, it's like when James Earl Jones talks to you, you're like, I'm sorry, dude, what? You know what I mean? You know, it's amazing to have those experiences, you know, and then to work with Sharon, and, you know, you always wonder, like, what's this gonna be? You know, she's a bona fide movie star, and I mean, I live in Detroit, and I'm ready. I got 5 chickens I gotta feed, and you
do you have chickens, really?
I do. Yes.
That's awesome.
I know, it's ridiculous. Because I need to come home, because my wife's like, one of the chickens, it's a whole...
Who gets the eggs in the morning?
The kids.
Okay.
I got 3 little kids, man. Yeah. Perfect egg collectors.
That was my job when I was at my dad's house.
Oh, yeah?
Growing up too, yeah.
See, it's fun. It's good for the kids to be around and stuff. And I can have that. I mean, it's not that people don't have chickens in California. I'm sure there's lovely chickens
just not
everywhere.
In Los Angeles.
There's one in Santa Monica, though. Yeah, because I'm staying at somebody's house, and you'd hear this rooster every morning. Like that. And I would, at first time, I was like, no, that's not a chicken over. We're 2 blocks off the beach. These guys don't have chickens. Yep, every morning. And I kind of would be like, I'm going to kick this guy's ass. I didn't get roosters. I kept
soundproof
hens.
the house that you're in.
Yeah, I like chickens.
Yeah.
But anyway, what the hell was I even talking about?
Sharon Stone.
And chickens. No, you get used to those moments. You know, I've worked with, luckily, a lot of people that I have been a huge fan of and know their work very intimately. And you get used to it after a while, just like anybody else. You know, they got there because they like to work hard. You know what I mean? They're not a bunch of goofballs. They don't just, ding dong. You know, like, work their butts off. And I appreciate that. Yeah. I like to work. And I like to take it seriously because I love the process of it. And you come to find out the people at that certain level, they're the same. They're there for the process.
Yeah. So, as we mentioned, being in Los Angeles, you were also able to have a lot of guest stars on the show.
Yeah.
Is there someone that you were a fan of growing up that you would love to have on the show?
Well, we had Fred Dreyer on the show. And it's funny because when I was a kid, my dad was a big TV junkie, and I was, and he watched Magnum P.I. and Simon & Simon, which Gerald McCraney was the star of, and then Hunter. and Fred Dryer was Hunter. And I just remember very specifically that show and him. And then when I found out he was going to be a guest on our show, I was nervous the first time I saw him.
Really?
I mean, it was really, and we had to spend a whole day together. And of course, he didn't give a crap. He's a very laid back dude. And we're like shooting guns up in mountains somewhere, and it's very manly and roguish, like exactly where you would want to see Fred Dryer doing this. And he was a jock too. Obviously, professional football player, was not a professional athlete, but I played sports through college, and to make the transition into being an actor, and then I got to tap, his memories, and I got to learn a lot, and just really had a thoroughly enjoyable experience being around him. It's one of those times where you're like, I'm so glad I do this.
Yeah.
It's a cool job.
What's one thing specifically that you learned from that experience?
That that it's not going to be perfect in the beginning. That like these shows, and you hear this from guys, and I've asked a lot of guys who like Kelsey Grammer or Peter Gallagher or Mark. There's so many guys that have been the leads of shows that I kind of want to emulate. Because there's something about when you're kind of the head of the acting department, all this kind of stuff filters through you, and it can be a bunch of garbage, and you have to learn how to do it because you thought, I was just going to be doing the scene with you or this fight with that guy. It's like there's all kinds of other drama crap that you got to figure out and be a leader and be a representative of all that. And so you want to ask these guys, and he's in the very beginning was like, listen, he goes, you don't figure these things out, especially action shows, in the first run. You know what I mean? You got to figure. Nobody knows what the show's going to be yet until it goes out into the world and people tell you what it was, and then you start to get these rhythms and what you're good at and stuff. And it's cool to hear that from somebody else who's been there and done that. I mean, that show lasted forever.
Yeah. You play Agent X on Agent X.
I know.
And I know that there was a lot of like stunt training involved with this.
Yes.
How did that go?
It was great. I'm a naturally very rambunctious person, and I like contact.
You said you played sports.
Yeah. And I had an older brother who used to kick the crap out of me all the time. My dad was a football coach and a wrestling coach, and we had a full contact house, and I still enjoy that. And I had just said to somebody earlier, it's like I got an opportunity to do an action show, which doesn't come every day. They're not easy to do. Then not everybody gets to do it, so I'm going to do it all. And so I had a month and a half of just training, fight training, just different styles of fighting. And then when you get into the actual fight choreography, we would, they bring these stunt guys, and literally, out of naivete, I would just do the whole thing and just like kill myself doing it. And it turned out to be a blast. And the more they trusted that I wouldn't hurt myself, the more they let me do.
Did you hurt yourself at all?
I did. Yeah. A bunch.
Do you have any battle wounds?
You know what? I'd have to take off my pants. Can we do that on this show?
I don't know if that's allowed.
Oh, no. All right.
Although I'm sure there are a lot of your fans that would love to see that.
No, we had this one stunt guy was always fighting, like he was a double of another character, and he was a kickboxer, and he had a belt at some point in his life. And I'm wearing a Kevlar vest, and he's supposed to kick me in the chest. I'm supposed to fly over this thing and break some stuff, and he kind of half-ass kicks me, and I'm like, dude, don't kick me. Let's go. Kick. I didn't get to finish the sentence. Boom. Right in the chest, and like I said, I'm wearing a bulletproof vest. It folded me in half and knocks the air out.
Well, it's supposed to protect you from bullets, not from super kicks.
Yeah, and super kicks, apparently Kevlar's got to work that into their equipment better because it was amazing. And I literally, once I got my breath back, I was giggling. I was like, yeah, okay, I read you, because like a well-placed into your sternum, pow. It's like, oh shit, that hurt.
The fact that you just described it as amazing just shows how into it you
we
really
had
are.
another time where we had this monster, I wish I could remember his name, give him credit, but he literally has to blast through a bookshelf full of books in a bookstore and grab me and rip me through.
Yeah.
Again, I'm with my vest, my rib protector, and he's ripping me through this thing, and as I'm coming over, I'm laughing. And I blew the shot because the one camera that was designated for me was right in my face, and you can see me laughing as I'm being ripped through this bookcase.
You don't stay in character.
Not at all, because it's so much fun.
Yeah.
Because I was like, as long as I get my head through and I don't break my neck, this is going to be really fun.
Yeah.
And then you get somebody who's like, I'm like a little kid. This guy could throw me around. Like, wee! And it really is enjoyable, but it costs. It's like, I went for a while, I had no feeling in my left arm, or like feeling, but tingling.
Uh-oh.
And man.
Nerve damage.
I eat a lot of bacon, but I really hope I'm not having a heart attack. And finally I tell somebody, and they're like, well, we should check this out. And when they had a lady check me out, she's like, these ribs were folded over on top of each other, so it was pinching a nerve, which is good. I wouldn't have a heart attack. But she had to put them back. You know what I mean? So she yanks my arm, right? Look at you. She pulls my arm and literally with her thumb in there, pops it back, and it's just like, boing, you know, it hurt like hell, but immediately had blood going to my arm and feeling come back. I was like, oh, well, that worked.
Yeah.
Yeah, and concussions and lots of blood, you know, lots of ringing in the ears, lots of stars, you know, probably stuff I'm really going to regret someday, but it was worth it. It was fun.
Taking it back to before you got involved in the industry, what was the point in your life where you realized that was what you wanted to do the rest of your life?
Well, you know, when I was 12, a guy said something that stuck with me. He said, you become what you think about the most. He goes, that's just the trick to all of it. So whenever you find yourself in a spot, what the hell am I doing? Mm-hmm. What do you think about the most? Who are you when you think about the most? And if that's a positive thing, go with it. If it's a negative thing, fix it. And, I, you know, being a jock all through college and stuff, I'm kind of waning interested towards college and the end of it, and really wanted to pursue being an actor because that's what I thought about. You know, I would watch a lot of movies, a lot of TV, a lot of plays, ironically. And, you know, that always went back to where would I want to insert myself in this process? And I always wanted to be the actor, not the director, the producer, or the writer, the actor. And so I bailed on college with like a class to go. I hope my mom doesn't watch this.
Did you tell her you graduated?
I tried. I know. Isn't that amazing? And my dad knew. He kept going like, where's your diploma? Where's this? And I went through the process of seeing if I could fake a diploma. And this was before like good printers and, you know, probably the internet. Yeah, I'm not that old. I am actually. But no, and so I tried to fake it for a while, and then I finally was just like, I can't. You know what I mean? Yeah, I didn't graduate. I'm literally a class short. Ferris State University. I'm hoping someday I do well enough. They're like, oh, you graduated.
Honorary degree. Yeah,
here you go. And then we'll go for like PhD after that. But anyway, so I started doing a bunch of plays and a bunch of theater, and down in Jacksonville, Florida, of all places. And you get a job as a stand-in on a movie that came to town, and it just kind of I ended up somehow in New York, and you crashing student films and trying to just do all of that. But it all led back to that's how I saw myself. I saw myself as an actor, and so I just constantly tried to put myself in that position.
Were your parents supportive of that? Because you said your dad was involved with sports, right?
Yeah, my dad still thinks I'm gay. Not that that's a bad thing.
With 3 kids.
Yeah, beautiful wife. Yeah. I mean, he's like, he'll make these, what he thinks are funny, which are, you know, probably wildly offensive to a vast majority of the people in the world. But no, he just doesn't find it to be, you know, he just doesn't get it. Like, he doesn't realize, in his heart, I think he gets a kick out of what I do, but he just doesn't see it as a real job.
Did that deter you at all from moving forward?
No, never even kind of. You know, we all know we have parents, and they're like, you take the good and then skip the bad, right? Like that's the whole point of evolution. I would hope it's like, you know, like let's improve upon this. And, you know, so hopefully I'll take his good attributes, which are many, and leave some of those other ones behind. And so no, it doesn't. You know, I didn't even really consider it.
With how much success you've achieved since then, have they finally like come around and been on board with it? Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really register sometimes, and maybe I'm not seeing it, and it's like I haven't asked for their approval on it. You know what I mean? They get a kick out of it, and it is what it is. Like my mom, and I was just telling our friend here that, you know, she wants someone to contact her local newspaper, and so they can put an article about my show in it, you know, and I'm like, of course, let's do that. But like even my you know, it's never been a big... So she can show her friends. Yeah, you know what I mean? It's never really been a big deal. We've never made a big deal out of it. My big brother, he constantly makes fun of me about it, you know, like tries to downplay everything. You know, it's like, oh, you're on TV with that guy. How was the Gold Globes? Oh, that was done. You know, like he just makes fun of all of it. It's just, I think that's the kind of family I come from. Just super kick him next time without a Kevlar vest on.
He might die.
Oh no.
Yeah. You need a vest.
Yeah. What would you say to your kids if one of the 3 of them wanted to eventually get into the industry?
I mean, I don't know, to be perfectly honest. I would be brutally honest with the awful parts, and then be really honest about the great parts. You know what I mean? It's like to be part of any storytelling process, you know, where people are... You put yourself into, you insert yourself into all these stories, and we use this as a little mirror and these little morality plays that can come out. There's a lot of nobility involved with what it is, and so there's a lot of good. But our business, as you well know, and everybody who talks about it, I mean, it's full of hustlers, that the bad kind of hustlers, and it's just full of scumbags, and it's full of cheaters and liars and people who cut. And if you're going to subject yourself to that, you got to outwork them, and if you're willing to do it, go for it. But don't look for some kind of wholeness. You know, this ain't going to make you happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It can make you happy sometimes.
Well, you know what makes me happy is the having done it. You know what I mean? When you sit there and you existentialize everything, when you make it into something that was bigger, then you're like, yeah, man, I just did that. You know?
And you won't look back and regret something later in life because you actually pursued what you wanted to pursue.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that goes for almost everything, right? It's like as long as you stay focused on why you're doing it. You know, when people put different meaning into what they're pursuing, like if somebody wants to be an actor and they want to do it to be famous, and like we know how that story ends every single time, and it's really poorly. You know what I mean? It's like that doesn't work. So if you find out of it what you want, then yeah, you can be very happy.
Yeah.
You know, but it's more about looking for those meaningful moments of like how it challenges you as a human, where it takes you as a person, and the people you get to meet. One of the great things about TV is you're constantly with crews for long periods of time. You get to know them. You get to know their families.
Family. Yeah.
And I love that. It's like everybody in here. I'm sure you guys know each other, the good and the bad. They drive each other nuts.
Hate them all. No,
yeah, I can see why. I was out there. But no, I mean, I think that there's something to that you don't get in every industry. You know, I made bumpers for the Ford Probe after high school. And when you're making bumpers as a press operator all day and you're just stacking metal, you see everybody at lunch for 5 minutes. It's no community. There's no sense of anything, and you don't feel like you're part of the greater good.
Well, I feel like a lot of jobs, it's you're working for the weekend, so you want to leave your coworkers as quick as possible. Yeah. Whereas in the industry, acting, hosting, music, even to a degree, you're so passionate about it that it doesn't feel like work. So you want to be involved and be surrounded by people that are going to help create that dream.
No, you're right. I mean, you want to be around people like that have the same interests as you in all cases. But you're right. I mean, when people get passionate about stories, you know, in my case, so the people that I hang out with, you could talk about the endless possibilities, and you get excited about that. And that, you know what I mean? It goes back to the becoming what you think about the most, and that's the stuff. I would extrapolate these stories, and I would insert myself in there, and those morality plays became versions of how I'm going to live my life. You know, and it can be incredibly pretentious to say that. You know, it's like, oh, this is so important. Ooh. But it's not. You know, I mean, it's also very common. We all do it. People tune into TV every day for looking for those moments.
Going back to Agent X,
yes.
Premieres November 8th on TNT, and you play John Case, Agent X. Mm-hmm. And tell us a little bit more about the show. What can people expect?
They expect me to be a badass.
Yeah.
Right? No, you know what it is. Sharon Stone's the Vice President of the United States.
Yeah.
She comes into office to find out that she has an actual job, and that is to be in charge of an agent that they send out in times of crisis, that no one else can handle it. It's separate from the presidency and the executive branch, and it has a plausible deniability. And, you know, you come to realize that she's got to not only be in charge of this guy, but she's also got to navigate her way through Washington. Mm-hmm. And so and then, you know, our story takes on an arc where there's a whole cabal, I guess is the word they're using, which I mean, I had to look it up.
Cabal.
Right? Google. Against our government.
Yeah.
And you come to find out that the Agent X needs to be used to avert this.
Yeah. And so Agent X he's the guy that does the special ops that the FBI, the CIA can't handle, right?
Yeah, and does it as a one-man op. You know, so there's really not many loose ends. There's only a few people who know. And so then everybody's kind of safe from the good and the bad of it. And so it stays just covert.
Is this going to be a show where more action fans are going to enjoy it, or political?
Yeah, I think more action fans. You know what I mean? It's less a Homeland or something. You know, like it's not in that realm. I think we have a classic story arc. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Good versus evil, people triumphing over great odds. I think you get a lot of that, and it's very comfortable to watch. But it's not so wildly sophisticated. You're not going to hurt your brain too much.
American James Bondish at all?
That's what they like to sell it as.
Okay.
But I'm taller than him, and you know, I'm going to separate myself a lot from that.
Don't like martinis and...
I like martinis. I mean, there's nothing wrong with those.
Shaken, not stirred.
Yeah. No, it's less... I try to, just because of who I am and my want to not, you know, to be that... That's a classic archetype that we're not improving on, the James Bond. Nobody's make that better.
Why make it better? It's awesome.
Exactly. So to go like, well, that's the American James Bond, and imply that it's better. It's like, no, it's just different. But I'm
well, as Americans, we have to be better, right? Oh, okay.
That's just what we think. No, but I hope there's a Midwestern bent to it. I hope there's a blue collar bent. I feel like it's I try to be relatable. On it, and
which can be really difficult for someone who's supposed to be that superior to all other.
Exactly, and so a lot of our fights took on this notion that one, I'm losing, and two, it's really messy. You know, at one point, because the writer of this is Blake Herron, he wrote The Bourne Identity, and people want to connect that style of fighting that Jason Bourne does to what we were going to do, and that's a clean, lethal, terrifying. Mine is more like, this hurts. I could really get my ass kicked.
So you shouldn't be laughing during scenes?
No, I shouldn't be laughing. There's one scene in the pilot where they're spinning me around on the roof, and I'm looking over my shoulder like, it's right there. And I only have like a little cable keeping me from really going over the roof of this, and utter terror in my eyes. You can see that I'm really scared.
There's not a fake roof that's like 2 feet from the ground?
No, we're on top of a building. I mean, 22 stories up. And no, I was like, oh, I may be over my head right now. But I like the element of that. It looks like it hurts, and it looks like I'm a bit of a mess. You know what I mean? It's like there's no clean finishing moves. It's like there's this one scene where I've got a book on this guy's face, and I'm elbowing that book into his face as many times as I can. It's violent, and I love it. You know, this is just after he threw me into a wall and ripped a hole in it and stuff. But I mean, there's nothing clean or technical about me kicking this guy's ass.
Well, I am very excited to watch it.
Good.
Thank you so much for coming in today.
Of course, yeah.
And this brings us to our shameless plug section. If you want to promote the show, any kind of social media you might have, or anything else.
Oh, man, I suck at that. Just the show. Agent X, November 8th, TNT, 2-hour premiere. And it's up again. It's going to be on Sundays. It's going to be up against football over here. It's going to be against Walking Dead. I get it. DVR it.
Watch it on demand.
Exactly.
So you can watch it like 6 times.
And then call me or Twitter. Hit me up on Twitter, and I'll live tweet with you whenever you want to rewatch the thing. But not like every day, you know. Every once in a while.
Where can people follow you on Twitter?
It's my name, Hephner Jeff. HEPHNERJEFF at Twitter.
Not Hephner.
No.
Not Hephner. Awesome.
Could be.
Well, you guys can follow me on Twitter at Catherine Kelley and on Instagram at Cathy Kelley. Follow us all here on Twitter and Instagram at AfterBuzz TV. Jeff, thank you again for coming in today. And check out more Spotlight Ons on our YouTube channel. Bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.